All right, so number 1 on this note sheet says, are the triangles similar? Show how you know. Write a similarity statement. Our choices for similar are these. There's no way I'm going to get SSS. I don't even have 3 sides listed. There's no way I'm going to get SAS because I don't have 2 sides of the small triangle and 2 sides of the large triangle to compare. So if they are similar, it's going to have to be by AA. No angles are listed. Does somebody have an idea about, whoa, is that too dark? No. Stay awake. Yes. Very good. They both share angle C. So let's mark it. We need markings so when we look to corresponding parts, those are helpful. So I'm going to write angle C, congruent to angle C. Somebody different. What is that called? Reflexive. Reflexive. Good. A word you would need to know for a quiz. There's one angle. The other one's a little tricky. But you know that? How I can find another set of angles alike? What do you think?
Since ED and DA are parallel, we do alternate here.
You're on the right track. Those arrows mean parallel. So I'm going to extend those. And then I'm going to look for a transversal. A transversal is simply a line that goes through the other 2 lines. There's 2 of them. Let's all pick the same one. Let's say we go with this one. I know it's easier to see mine than just pencil marks, but try to outline it like that. So I have 8 yellow angles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need to pick a couple of them that are going to be helpful here. Well, half of those, more than half of them, aren't even a part of my triangle. I'm going to pick this angle because that's in the small triangle. Can you tell at the bottom which angle you're going to pick? The only one that's a part of a triangle. Jaden guessed alternate interior. That's kind of the right idea, but they are not both on the interior. Very good, corresponding. They're both in the top position. They're both in the same seat. So let's name them 1 and 2. Corresponding. I'm going to write down AA similarity. This triangle that we just did is the same triangle that's all over your paper. There's no change. There's some numbers on it that we're going to find, but the picture is the same. There are parallel lines, which makes these angles alike, and they overlap that angle. So let's look at number 2. Let's mark this picture. So put that angle up at C. And let's mark that set of corresponding. We don't have to write all the writing again about how they're congruent in AA. Just put the markings in so it's a little bit more helpful. I've got a small triangle and I've got a big one. We are going to solve for the lake. So we'll call that L. I'm just going to leave it like it is for now. Let's set up a proportion. I'm going to call on somebody and they are going to pick any side they want to start with. Any side of the small triangle. or any side of the large triangle. We cannot pick 12. We talked about this yesterday. Do you see why you can't pick 12? 12 is not a side of the small triangle, and 12 is not a full side of the large triangle. Really, pick a side of the small or large triangle, whatever you want to do. 6.5. Let's all write down 6.5. She decided to start with a small triangle. So she picked one of those numbers. Now we are going to go to the big triangle and pick the one that goes with it. It's set up kind of nicely, so you don't have to think too hard. 6.5 is touching the single arc and the double arc. In the blue triangle, that goes with this side. That whole thing. That is 6.5 added to 12, 18.5. Everybody see how we got that? Okay, so the small triangle has sides of 6.5, we don't know, and 8. The big triangle has sides of, we don't know, 8 and the lake, 6.5 and 12. That's how we got it, because it's this whole side that makes one of the triangle sides. Now we have to go back to the small triangle. Of course, we're going to pick 8. It's the only other number on the small triangle. What side goes with 8? This side goes with that. That's 8 and the lake. So that's 8 plus, I'll go with L for lake. Let's put this in parentheses, so when we cross multiply, we remember to do that. Go ahead, I see you're already starting cross multiply. All right. My lake length is 14.8. This cross multiplying is more difficult with the parentheses. Hopefully you're catching on to the cross multiplying. Let me talk one more time about how I set it up, because that's the hard part. You can start with 6.5. Don't start there. Or 8. You can start with any of those numbers. Those are sides of the small triangle. Or you can start with sides of the large triangle. I wouldn't start with this one because I don't know that one. You could start with this side, which is 12.5 and 6.5, so 18.5 if you want to start with that number. Or you could start with this side, which is 8 plus the lake. Those are your choices. Once you pick a full side, then compare it to the other triangle. Questions on 2. We're going to leave this side blank for a minute, and we're going to go to number 3. Number 3 has the same picture, so let's mark angle C. That was your reflexive angle. Let's mark these corresponding angles. No numbers have changed except for some have been added. So now we have more information. We have 10 and we have the flower patch. This is going to be our variable. I'll call it F. I want to know the length of the flower patch. We've already figured out the length of the lake, so you can just leave that blank. All right, let's go for a proportion. We just talked about your options. You could pick any side of the small triangle or any full side of the large triangle. You might not want to start with these sides because if I made a mistake up above in the lake, I'm going to make a mistake here too. I'm going to use an incorrect number. So if you can do it without picking numbers from the previous problem, that might be helpful. Kenneth, what number do you want to start with?
8.
We could start with 8, but if I pick 8, 8's going to go with 8 plus the lake. So I'm going to have to use a number from before. And if I made a mistake up there, I'm going to have an incorrect number. We didn't make a mistake, I'm for sure of that. But just in case, for your sake, if you're doing this at home, quiz, you might want to pick maybe a different side that doesn't have anything to do with the previous problem. What do you think?
6.5.
Yeah, let's try 6.5. 6.5 is right here. That's the small triangle. That goes with this side in the larger triangle. That side is 6.5 added to 12, 18.5. Now we need to go back to the small triangle. Remember, we're trying to find the flower patch, so we probably want to pick the side that goes with that. So Caitlin, what side would I pick now? What? Well, I want to talk about the flower patch. So what goes with the flower patch?
Oh,
10. Yep. So let's start with 10. I couldn't pick the flower patch yet because I decided to put the small triangle on the top. So I have to pick a small triangle number. And if I pick 8, that goes with the lake, and we don't want that. So that and this side, we'll call that F. That stands for the flower patch. Go ahead, cross multiply and figure out how long the flower patch is. Aubrey, let me know what you get. Yep, good. It's not really labeled, so you can just do 28.5. So similar setup, compare the small triangle to the large triangle, the small triangle to the large triangle. Alrighty. Technically, nothing that we've done today is new. The new part is going to come in this other side. The new part for today is there's a shortcut. There's a quicker way to do these problems, but the shortcut doesn't always work. So I'm going to teach you the shortcut, and I'm going to teach you when to use the shortcut. If we use it all of the time on every problem, you're not going to get them all right. The shortcut is great, but it doesn't work for every problem. So let me show you what the shortcut is. Go back up to this problem, number 2. The shortcut is, instead of picking small triangle, large triangle, small triangle, large triangle, you don't actually have to pick a full side. The shortcut is really nice. It's just this. This small part to this part, and this part to that. Let's write that down over here. Go with 6.5. And then just 12. Just 6.5 and then 12. Go back to the small triangle, 8. And then you just get to pick this shortcut, just L for lake. No adding, no getting a full side, just a quick shortcut, just the numbers you see. Cross multiply. And what'd you get? Yeah. Shortcut worked. That was a lot easier, wasn't it? Yeah. Let's try this one using the shortcut. So let's write your proportion. Let me remind you again what we did the first time. We did small triangle to a whole side of the large triangle. Back to the small triangle, a whole side of the large triangle. For the shortcut, you get to just pick little parts. So let's start with 6.5 again. And then that goes with this little part, 12. Back to the small triangle, 10. And F. Cross multiply. Catherine, let me know what you get when you cross multiply. Yep. You can see the shortcut didn't work. So you know what the shortcut is. The shortcut is, hey, you just get to pick the little parts. You don't have to pick the full side. Well, when does that work? So what's the difference between this problem and this problem? It matters where the parts you pick are. If you pick these parallel ones, that's a no-go. It won't work. Look at your picture. Notice we picked the parallel sides in number 3. We put those in. That didn't work. I would put like a sad face somewhere to show this is wrong. The notes we took here are wrong. I'm showing you if you do the shortcut here, it won't work. Number 2, however, you're not picking the parallel sides. You're picking these outsides. It does work. That math is correct. Does that make sense? Okay. So flip your paper over. Draw this. I know the triangles are similar because there's parallel sides, which means corresponding, and they overlap at the top. Let's write these numbers in. You're going to be asked to find x, and you're going to be asked to find y. If the shortcut is one you can do, then do the shortcut. Let's talk through this. If we're going to find x, do you think we can use the shortcut? Yes. If we're going to find y, can we use the shortcut? No, if you are using the parallel sides, that's a no-go. You cannot pick the parallel sides and the shortcut. Not going to work. So let's go ahead and start to find x. You are allowed to use the shortcut. Shortcut means you can just pick the parts you see. You don't have to add a full side together. What I would do is I would kind of ignore these. Maybe don't cross them out. I can cross them out because I can erase easier than you. Pretend these aren't there. You don't need those for x. A proportion only has 4 numbers, so you don't need those. Really, you can start with any one of these. Kennedy, pick which one you want to start with. 22. She can go from 22 right to 30. She doesn't have to add those up in the shortcut. What does she have? What do we have to pick next? X. Go in the same order. So we're doing top to bottom. So we got to go back to top, then to the bottom. Nice, easy shortcut. Cross multiply, and you'll have your answer for x. I'm drawing mine again for y. You don't have to do that unless your picture is really messy like mine. I don't want to go too fast. So there are questions on the green finding x with the shortcut. I forgot to tell you guys the name of the shortcut. It's the name of the lesson. Flip your paper over. It's at the top left. The shortcut is the name triangle proportionality theorem. It's like how to set up a proportion really easily with triangles. Triangle proportionality theorem. That's the name of the shortcut. And we just use the triangle proportionality theorem to find x. Let's look at finding y. When I find y, in my head, I kind of ignore some numbers. I'm going to ignore x because that's a number from a previous problem that I actually don't need. Sometimes you might need to use it, but I'm going to say, hey, let's not look at this side for now because that's just extra numbers in the way. I may not use the proportionality theorem, the shortcut. So I have to pick a full side, not a little part. Kevin, where would you like to start?
50.
50, okay. 50 is a full side. Let me pick the full side of the big triangle. So that goes with this side of the small triangle. 50 goes with y. He picked the big triangle, so now I have to pick the big triangle again. I don't know the length of this side unless I use the number from before. I would rather do this length of the big triangle. So that's 30 added to 22, 52. Back to the small triangle. That side is 22. Big triangle, big triangle, the whole thing, little triangle. Cross multiply to find y. Do we like the shortcut? Do we know when to use it? If you're using the parallel sides, don't use it. I can almost guarantee you're going to get the wrong answer. All right, here's your homework. Let's label it 18-3.